Okay, we are officially live on Facebook. So it's still pulling up. Can't see any comments or anything yet. So I'll get that pulled up as soon as it loads. But yay, we're here for Spotlight Sunday and we have an actual guest this time, not like last week. So we are here with Doña today and I am super freaking excited because you do all these amazing things. So I'm just going to let you take over and introduce yourself so I don't screw anything up. But yay, let's get started.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I think this is such a fun series that you do. So my name is Doña Bumgarner, and I'm a coach for creative entrepreneurs, moms who are struggling to balance work and life, which, you know, is pretty much all of us.
Yeah.
Especially the ones with young kids. Yeah. And I help with time management and organizational stuff, and as well as working with help developing self-care programs so that moms can feel a little bit more in control of their lives, that they can kick the guilt and the overwhelm and just feel like they can be super moms in their own lives, which we all want.
Yeah, right. So we were talking a few minutes before this started, and you said that you've been doing this for about 2 years, but you just recently switched over to the moms, right? So what kind of inspired you to narrow in that way?
Yeah, I actually, the narrowing was not to moms, but to the time management piece. So I had been writing about really since my daughter was about 18 months old, and she's 7 now. So for quite a number of years, I had a blog that was about being mindful as a parent and focusing on self-care, because I was really interested I came to motherhood late. I was 38 when I had my daughter. And I was really interested in how I could continue to care for myself in the way that I had learned to as a single, unmom person, while still having a little kid who needed me all the time.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time thinking about that and writing about that. And then when I became a coach about 2 years ago, I worked with moms sort of in that general vein, but not with any real focus. But in the last 6 months, I've really narrowed in on focusing on this balance piece and working with time management, because my background is as a project manager. I left my job at Apple when I was pregnant with my daughter, before she was born. And so just recently I brought in that piece of how do you do something that you want to get done? How do you manage your time? How do you prioritize? How do you organize a to-do list? Which was all part of my job working in software engineering. And I sort of realized, like, oh yes, this totally applies to everybody.
I have these skills already.
And lots of people don't have these skills. So I brought that piece to working with moms. And that's the part that I've really gotten really excited about.
Fun. Okay, cool. Awesome. So before we dive in too deep, then the same question I like to ask everybody is kind of, what is your definition of branding and what does it really mean for your business?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I really think that branding is all of the ways that I interact with anybody. So it's what my website looks like. It's what my copy sounds like. It's me honing my voice and making it consistent to get across all the places that I am, my blog, I have a podcast, my interactions on Facebook, it's all just me. But it includes things like color, the traditional brand things. It includes the color palette that I use and the pictures that I use and the name and font and all those things. But I really think it's more than that. It's my style. It's my personality. It's what I offer and how I offer it. It's just everything.
I love it. It's everything. That's so true. Cool. Well, that's perfect then. Perfect answer. A+.
Yeah. Thanks.
So let's dive in. As always, too, when you get here, say hi. I see Christy said hi, and Heidi and Tana popped on. So always let us know that you're here. And if you have any questions along the way, just put them in, and we can come back and answer them later if you're watching in the replay. But yeah, let's dive the heck in and learn all your awesome juicy secrets.
Yeah. All right. So we were going to talk about how to find more time. And there's sort of a 3-piece process that I use to work with women to figure out how to get more time in their life. And I want to preface this by saying that really we don't get any more time. We all have the same 128 hours every week. It's all exactly the same. But my point here is how to get more time for you, how to get more time for the things that you want to do. And that is a very individual process. And it's possible to create more time, but you have to be mindful about it. So that's why I talk about mindful time management, because my process, or my brand around this, if we go back to branding, is not about being busier, like doing more things just so you can be busier. My idea is how to do things more efficiently and more mindfully, so that you can have more time for you, or you can have more time for a project, or you can have more time for your kids. So you can actually do more so that you can do less, if that's your goal.
I love that. I love that. I'm so excited.
So, yeah. And we all feel so busy and overwhelmed that this is why I say that, because we all want to have less in our lives. We all feel like we have too much. So my goal is to help you have a little less mindfully. So the first thing that I would say as part of this process is you have to prioritize. Okay. And this is important because we often do things. What's that?
Said I'm going to type them in as we go.
Okay, good.
So first is prioritize.
Prioritize. Yeah. It's because we get really wrapped up in what other people want us to do, what our culture says we should do, what our kids say we should do, what everybody else is doing. And it's really easy to, have your schedule go up, and your to-do list go up, without really thinking about what's on it. So the first thing that I have all my clients do when I'm working with them is prioritize what's really important for their life in this very moment. And this is a process that you have to do over and over, because seasons change, your life changes, your kids' needs change. So this is a very of the moment thing. And I recommend you get as specific as possible. So for example, instead of saying, it's important to me to spend time with my kids, it might be, it's important for me to take my child. So this is one of my priorities in my life. It's important to me to take my daughter to her practices and be there with her. So not just do carpools and drop her off, but it's important to me to actually be there with her. Other parents might be totally fine with dropping their kids off at practice and being with their kids in another way. But for me, that's important. So, and that's what I mean by it's personal to you and it's very specific. Yeah. So the first step is to just write that list. What's really important to you right now? And you kind of have to look at, and you have to, sometimes it helps to look at your calendar and say, what things feel really good and energizing and what things do I resent? That can give you some clues about where your priorities are. Sometimes it just takes some journaling. It sometimes maybe go through the list a couple times so you get really clear about it.
I love that.
So once you have
I have one of those actually. A crap I hate doing list.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is the stuff I'm going to outsource immediately.
Right. Okay. So the next two steps kind of go together. So one is to delegate, and one is to eliminate. So the first step is to delegate things. And this comes, I come from a business background. So if I was working on a project team, delegation would be like finding somebody else on the team to do that task for me. We don't always have somebody else on our team to do that task.
Especially,
I'm a solopreneur. I don't have anybody else to do anything for me. But that can look like a lot of things. Delegation can look like, getting Google Express to deliver your groceries instead of going to the grocery store. Delegation can look like hiring cleaners instead of cleaning your own house. Often delegation is going to require some money.
Yeah. But
also it means asking for help. And that's something that a lot of moms are not very good at doing. We think we have to do everything. So this step sometimes requires some soul searching. Why is it so hard for me to ask for help? Who can I ask for help from? How can I think about what help looks like differently? Because maybe that looks like, I mentioned before, maybe help looks like asking someone to carpool so that you don't have to drive your kid to practice every week. So you could do it every other week. So delegating is really, really important. That's a really great way to free up some time. Although it is, like I said, it might bring up some stuff. And so that's one of the ways I work with my clients is we say, okay, here are all the things you're going to delegate. And then they'd say, I don't want to do that. And then we talk through, what are the issues there and what's going to make that easier. Sometimes we role play to figure out that script of how to ask for help. What is that really going to look like? And then eliminating is the last one. And again, eliminating can just mean crossing it off the list. You know, there's something I'm spending my time doing and I hate it and it's not on my list of priorities. I'm just going to stop. Like that can be the easiest place. It could also be saying that I'm not going to do it in this season of my life. So maybe there are things that you really want to do, but they really don't fit in your life right now. So for example, I have wanted to learn to play the cello for years. It does not fit in my life right now. So if I was taking cello
over there in the corner over there.
Yeah, there you go.
That's me. It's been there for a while.
So if I consistently had, you know, learned to play the cello on my list, or I was signed up for lessons and it was just stressing me out because I wasn't getting to them or I wasn't practicing or whatever, maybe I would say, okay, this is not the time. This is not the time for me to do this. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to have time some other year or some other month, you know, I'll come back to it. But right now I'm going to eliminate it. So there's elimination forever. There's elimination for now. Mm-hmm. There's elimination, excuse me, there's elimination that looks a lot like delegation too. So you can actually just turn something over to somebody else and not monitor it. That's the piece. So if you're delegating, you're probably monitoring. Yeah. But if you give it to somebody else and say, now it's yours, not mine anymore, then that's elimination.
I like that. I like that differentiation. That's super important.
Yeah.
Because when you were talking about delegation, I was thinking even like tools, like automation tools and systems.
Absolutely.
You still have to monitor those.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that. Absolutely. Within a business, that can be using tools to automate things. It could be hiring a VA. Yeah. It could be hiring an accountant. You know, it can be all of those things. In fact, I have delegated most of my social media just by using tools that loop. Yeah. I use a tool that loops my social media so that I don't have to do it every week. Mm-hmm. And I use a scheduler so that I only have to do it once a week. So that's my other way of delegating is I do it on Monday, but I don't do it every day. I do it just on Monday.
Cool. I love that.
So, yeah. And so I want to say about those two pieces, the delegation and elimination thing, is that those are the hardest for women and women who are powerhouse entrepreneurs. Those are the hardest for us to do. Yeah. And often I have a little coaching package that's called the To-Do List Rescue. And so when people are feeling overwhelmed by their to-do list, they can hire me to help them kind of figure it out. And I have this whole process I go through where they, you know, I say, okay, what needs to be done? What's urgent? What needs to be done now? What is urgent but can be done later? What's important but can be done later? And what can we delegate and eliminate? And when I get to delegate and eliminate, I hear a lot of, oh, but I can't possibly.
Freak out over it.
It's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard. But I think it's really important to think about the why you need to do that. What is it that's on your priority list, for example, that you just don't have time for? What is it that's on your priority list that's falling off the bottom because you're doing a lot of things that aren't on your priority list? Mm-hmm. So that's why I say do them in that order, because once you get clear on your priorities, it's a whole lot easier to let things go.
Yeah, for sure. So about the prioritizing, then you said you go through this process with them and you said you do it a lot. So what does a lot mean? You know, like how often do you recommend going through and doing stuff like that?
You know, I do it in my own life whenever things start to feel funky. So funky can be like, it's really not working. I'm stressed out. I'm not getting my stuff done. Things are getting missed. Funky might mean I'm feeling some resentment about stuff and I don't quite know why. Funky might mean my anxiety is up a little bit. Okay. And I also, you know, maybe I don't know why about that either. But there's clues that you can kind of pay attention to. You feel more tired, you feel more anxious, you feel resentful, or things are actually falling apart. That's probably a little too late. You should have
already done it by then.
Right. Funny. So, I mean, this can be a weekly process. Mm-hmm. It depends how busy your life is, how often, you know, how comfortable you are with the process. I would say that the more I've done it in my life, the less often I need to, because I start to just iterate without really noticing over time. But I would recommend doing it once a month as a baseline, and definitely once a year. If you do any goal setting, you know, the new year coming up is a great time to do it. You can do it with goal setting for your business. You can do it with goal setting for your life. You can do it with New Year's resolutions. That's a really great time to look at your priorities, what you have time for, what you don't.
Yeah. So this is like a macro scale then. So is there a way to translate this into like every day too? Like
Absolutely.
my daily tasks? So
yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So there's a tool called the Eisenhower quadrant. It's called sometimes the Eisenhower grid or the Eisenhower quadrant. And you can find worksheets online. You can find a printable version online pretty easily. Just Google that. Eisenhower, like the president.
Okay.
And basically what it is a grid of 4 squares, and and then you rank your to-do list into those 4 squares. So the first square is it's urgent and it's important. So pretty much you have to do it now. And then the second square is it's important, but it's not urgent. So then you calendar those things, you schedule them. So you know you're going to get to them, but you don't have to do them right this minute. And then it's not, let's see, I can't remember the words for the third one.
Yeah.
Basically, the third one is things you can delegate. So they're important, but they don't have to be done by you necessarily. Okay. And then the last box is it's not urgent, it's not important. And those are the things to eliminate.
Cool.
Okay, and you can use that grid every day with your to-do list. And it can be really illuminating. I mean, I always overload my to-do list. And if I did that with my own to-do list every day, it would probably be really obvious which things I actually don't need to do. I'm not in the habit of doing that. I should be.
You should see my to-do list that I just had open right before we started. I just use the notes app on my phone, and so it stays on my phone and my computer, but it's like all the way down. You just keep scrolling. Like, oh gosh.
Right.
I'm in the middle of this launch right now is my excuse, but still.
Right. Well, and then we look at a list like that and we're like, oh yeah, I can get that done in a day at 8 o'clock in the morning. And at 5 o'clock, we're like, what were we thinking? I'm so tired and I've only done 3 things.
Yeah. So that's super, super helpful. So I actually found a daily planner online. I have trouble with planners that are like super organized already because I don't usually like how they're organized. I'm really picky, but I also don't know what I want either. I don't like it, but I don't have another solution. But I found one that I really liked, and it's not a quadrant at all, but it follows that same format. And it's this girl in Australia who cusses a lot. So of course I like her. And it's like, shit I have to do, shit I'll do if I have time, shit I might be time for, but it's not going to cut into my wine drinking time or something like that. So it is broken that way. I love it.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
that's really funny. I might have to. That's great branding right there, right? She's made her own Eisenhower her own Eisenhower quadrant, totally branded to her. That's great.
It's funny. I didn't even realize that that's what it was, but it is totally broken up.
Yeah,
it has other things on there too.
It's super helpful.
It's fun.
You know, there's something else I want to say about planners, just because you mentioned planners. I hear from people a lot, some version of, if I could just find the right planner, my life would be super organized. If I could just find the right planner, then my life would be so in control. And I can tell you it's not about the planner. It's not what you're writing in the planner is the problem. And certainly there are planners that, you know, they're organized in all kinds of different ways. Some styles work better for different people than others. And this is one of the things I talk about in my to-do list program. I work with people to figure out what kind of planner might work best for them. But the issue is not the planner. The issue is how you interact with the planner and how you interact with your to-do list. So that's a really important thing to remember. If you find yourself buying planner after planner and still feeling overwhelmed, it's not the planner. There's some other work.
Yeah, that's the first one I've actually used. And I think it's because it's hilarious too. Like, I just like looking at it because it's so funny.
Right. It makes it really fun. That's really fun.
Every time I look at it, I just laugh. So like I said, I don't really use anything other than that anymore. I just use that notes app on my phone, but that's also not the most efficient thing either. So this is super, super helpful. I'm loving all of it. So if anyone has any more questions, now would be the time too. And I didn't mean to, I don't know if you were finished talking about planners either. I totally
no, I'm good.
Sorry.
No, you did not cut me off. I would love to answer some questions if anybody has some.
Yeah, let's see. Victoria's here. Hi, and Tammy. Cool. Okay, we'll give it a second because it's kind of delayed. But
There's
it
a
might be
lag,
too,
yeah.
there might be a replay question. So if you do have any questions and you're watching the replay, make sure and tag, probably not me because I won't know the answer.
Yeah, tag me.
Tag Doña. That's such a pretty name. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, here's a funny story. My parents got that name off a street sign in New Mexico.
How funny. I love it. That's fun. Well, that was going to be my next question is like, where are you from? But
yeah, it's funny because my parents actually only lived in New Mexico for like the 9 months before I was conceived and while my mom was pregnant with me. And then they moved to the East Coast. But we're from California. We're both my parents grew up here in California and I grew up here in California. I was born in Washington, D.C., but they moved back right after that. And I've lived in Santa Cruz for 25 years now.
Fun.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to get to California soon. I haven't been since I was a kid. I'm Oklahoma. It's super fun. Luckily, I can travel more now that I'm not in my cube anymore, but still, and now I'm just like, oh, there's too much to do.
Right.
California is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm really working on planning, talking about priorities, right? I'm really working on planning travel into my life and then making my work around it because I have a young daughter and I have 3 siblings. They're scattered all around the country and I want to visit them. And why not? I don't work in a cube anymore. So I should be able to.
Do everything online. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason. Cool. Okay. Well, if you guys think of any questions later, then put them in. And then same thing for the replay too. Let us know. But that's all the questions we have. So do you want to, before we hop off, do you want to talk about your freebie, your free?
Yeah. So, right. So I have 2 things I can tell you guys about. The first is my podcast. So I have a podcast called Nurturing Habit, and it's actually on break between seasons right now. I just finished a season that's about self-care. So if that's of interest to you, that was a really fascinating, really deep dive into what self-care is and what it can look like. And I'm just about to start a season, I think it's launching on the 19th, about how we nurture ourselves in our businesses and how we nurture ourselves as business owners. So I have so many interesting people I'm interviewing for that and so many interesting topics. I'm going to do some solo episodes too. So that'll be really cool. And you can find that at nurturinghabit.com. And then the other thing is I have a freebie called Get Back in Control of Your Life workbook. And that is a short workbook. I think it's 5 or 6 pages. People have told me they do it with their morning coffee. So it just takes a few minutes to work through. And it has some exercises to help you do this prioritization exercise. So if you're hearing about this and you're like, oh, it sounds like I should do that, but I have no idea how, this workbook will help you do that. Cool. And it will leave you with a few action items. So like what you can change in your life right now based on that prioritization, what you can change to give yourself a little bit more space and control. Okay, and you can find that at nurturedmama.net/subscribe.
Cool. And that's also,
and you can also,
sorry, I was just
going to say that's also where you can say that again.
I just said I typed it in, but also the links are in the events tab inside the event for our call right now. So the links are there if you don't want to, type it from memory.
Yeah, and there you can also find my blog posts and information about working with me if that's something you're interested in. That's all on that site.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming in, especially on such short notice too. Absolutely. Filling in the gap. I love it. So like I said before, if anyone has any questions later, put them in and we'll get an answer for you. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your knowledge with us. I love this one. It was so fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Brooke. It was great to chat with you.
You too. All right, everyone have a great Sunday night and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.